This is Bruce Friedman of Adult Side Broker, and welcome to Adult Side Broker Talk, where each week we interview one of the movers and shakers of the adult industry, and we give you a tip on buying and selling websites. This week we'll be speaking with Max Huhn of Money Shot Magic. I'll be in Cali, Colombia for the LAL Expo, April 27th through the 29th. I hope to see many of you there. If you'd like to sit down and discuss business, contact me at adultsidebroker.com. We're proud to announce our latest project, thewaronporn.com. You'll find articles on age verification laws and other attacks on our industry. It's to raise awareness of our industry's plight in the war on porn. You'll find all that and more at thewaronporn.com. Now time for our properties for sale at Adult Site Broker. We're proud to offer a rapidly growing OnlyFans chat agency with strong SEO. The company has over 30 clients with very little churn. Their clients range from around $10,000 to over $150,000 a month. There's a strong team in place that handles hiring, training, management, quality assurance, and the chatters. The company continues to grow and innovate. They're adding 2 new clients representing $185,000 a month and a large creator with 3 million subscribers on YouTube. New technical features include an enhanced chatter portal, a new creator billing dashboard with daily billing, and an automated blog system to grow SEO. The company's set up with very little upkeep needed by the owners. It's a cash cow that's still growing fast. We have the largest foot fetish creator site in the German-speaking market. The site is a leading niche platform that's been the #1 brand in the market for over 3 years. It was built to serve a highly engaged audience with a strong, recognizable brand and a proven monetization model. The site is a highly profitable business with consistent revenue, an established SEO footprint, and strong brand authority in its niche. We have a buyer who's looking for OnlyFans agencies, chatting companies, and OnlyFans traffic sites. He owns one of the top OnlyFans agencies in the world and many of the types of companies listed above. They have a large budget to acquire multiple properties. We're offering a growing free porn gaming site with adult sex games. The site is owned by one of the top entrepreneurs in our industry. We have a premium AI companion platform focused on emotional realism and deep memory. Users interact with lifelike companions that remember every detail and respond with real emotion. They've just added advanced video capabilities. We have a network of BDSM subreddits that has over 1.49 million users, over 3.8 million posts, and almost 45,000 comments. We have a buyer who's looking for dating and lifestyle sites in Europe. They also would consider other geos. They currently operate some very successful sites. And there's a highly active, organically grown Reddit community centered around the stalking and foot fetish niches. It's one of the leading spaces for adult fetish content on Reddit. For more information on any of these listings, go to our listings page or contact us at adultsitebroker.com. Now time for this week's interview. My guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk is Max Huhn of Money Shot Magic. Max, thanks for being with us on Adult Site Broker Talk.
Good evening. Nice to be here.
It's nice to have you. Before moving to the U.S., Max lived in the U.K. for many years. He helped a condom company, Safeguard Forte, develop Britain's first gay marketed condom. He also helped them develop a personal lubricant called Licks. Since moving to the U.S., he's lived in the Bay Area, Chicago, and New York before finally settling in Florida. He works as a real estate broker. He then founded Money Shot Magic. The idea, which began as a joke, eventually found its way onto Amazon, where it began to sell, leading to the search for a factory to keep up with sales. Money Shot Magic was originally created around 2014. The idea was to make a realistic fake cum product as a way to provide adult content creators with a means for insurance for those scenarios where their talent was having a non-performance day. It also provides multiple endings to the same scene, allowing for greater creativity, as well as a means for creating more scenes in a single shoot than any normal man could muster. Various shooting devices followed, which provided launching mechanisms for the fake cum, including self-operated and crew-operated triggers, in addition to the Monster Squirt, the world's most powerful squirting dildo. I think I want that to play with, a Monster Squirt. Patent pending. I remember those big squirt guns, so that's what it kind of reminded me of.
It is like that. It's about as much fun. It's actually more fun.
I'll have to get one. Max, how did you come up with the idea of creating a fake cum product?
Okay, so this is going to sound like a strange story, but I had a friend. We were sort of just goofing around one weekend, and he is at college here, actually in Florida, or he was at the time, and broke. And he said he was thinking of maybe doing some kind of adult video. And to which I said, sure, of course, whatever you want to do, go for it. And he said, I can't. And I'm like, why not? He said, because I have retrograde ejaculation. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? Can I cuss on this podcast?
Oh, of course you can. We encourage it, actually.
Well, fuck in that case. Yeah, I mean, I'd never heard of it. I'm not a doctor. I'm like, what is that? So when I ejaculate, instead of my sperm coming out of the end of my penis, it goes backwards and ends up in my bladder. I was like, wow, never heard of it. But anyway, good for you. So he's like, well, that's that. I'm like, well, why don't we just, if you want to do it that bad, let's just fake it. And so that's kind of how it began. We ended up like, well, how do you fake it? Well, we ran down to Walgreens. We bought some conditioner, we bought some shampoo, we bought anything that was white and creamy, basically. And we brought it back to the house and we started playing with it. No, this one looks good. This one's too pearly. This one, whatever. And we soon realized that however good any of them were, which was not very good, really, they were also sort of toxic in the sense that if you got them in your ears or your eyes, it would sting. How it stings if you get shampoo in your eyes in the shower. So we thought, okay, that's not going to work because you really don't want to put that anywhere where the sun don't shine, as they say. So that was out. So that took up a couple of weekends. And then I thought, okay, what can we do? Let's get serious. So I went and got some cornstarch and we started playing around with cornstarch. And that was 10 times better, actually. Well, you could alter the viscosity of it by obviously how much cornstarch you used. And we were able to play around with that and come up with something that was somewhat realistic looking. But then the problem with that turned out to be, it wasn't long before some females reminded me, well, I don't want a yeast infection, thank you very much. Cornstarch is going to give me one. So I was like, exactly. Okay, so that's out. So I was back to the drawing board again, I'm a couple of months in at this point. So I started to really research it because I'm one of these people that just, however dumb the idea is, once I get my teeth into something, I just don't let it go. So I'm like, I'm going to crack this if it's the last thing I do. So I start looking around at chemicals, and I start grabbing bottles of lube to see what lube's actually made of. And I find out fairly quickly that it's just mostly made from gum, guar gum, cellulose gum, that kind of thing. So I thought, okay, this is going to get expensive now, but what the hell? So I went on eBay, I think it was. I found some methyl cellulose gum or something. And when that arrived, it was great. So I realized, okay, this is obviously the way to go. What I need to do is make basically a lubricant that just has all the properties of a lubricant, but I'll try to make it more realistic. And that's kind of how it got started, really. It was then just a question of trial and error over a long period of time to try to see.
How long?
Oh, months. It was months, yeah. I mean, because I had to figure out, once I got something that I thought was somewhat realistic, I had to then figure out things like preservatives, because I realized, well, we don't want to, same thing with the cornstarch, right? I don't want this stuff to become a month old and then, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not a chemist. And then suddenly it's got microbial organisms in it, or it starts to get mold growth. So then it got onto that. Oh, I don't know. About 6 months later, I had something that I thought was actually pretty decent. So then my friend says to me, well, that's great, but it doesn't solve my problem of retrograde ejaculation. I still need a mechanism to fire this stuff. How are we going to do that? And, I hadn't really considered that. So, okay. I went down to the sink, under the kitchen sink, and we grabbed some trigger bottles, for Windex. And I'm like, wait, maybe we can fire this stuff through a trigger. So then I start taking bottles apart, and then another 6 months of research follows where I start ordering triggers online and trying to find ones that are powerful enough to shoot a thick viscous fluid through, because of course your average Windex trigger is just not strong enough to do anything but water. So I found some industrial type triggers. Then I had to get medical tubing, and I eventually came up with a product that was basically a trigger, standalone trigger with a dip tube that could plug into the bottle that I'd created, and then a tubing that would run from the end of the trigger that you could pass between your legs and sort of hold to one side of your penis. And, as long as you got the angle straight with the camera, you wouldn't see it. And then you could fire the trigger from behind your butt with the other hand, and it worked. This is great. This is too much fun. By which time my friend had already graduated college and moved to Texas, and I never saw him again. So all of this work was for nothing in the end. So I thought, well, I've done it now. I built a website real quick on Wix. And I thought, I'll just throw it up online and see what happens. And of course, nothing happened. And then one day there's like a ping, and I'm like, oh, no shit. Somebody actually bought one. And I laughed my ass all the way to the post office and mailed it off. And, I just started to grow from there, really. And, that's the story.
Sounds like you could have used a chemist early on.
Yeah, I wasted a lot of time for sure. I mean, knowing what I know now,
You're almost qualified for a chemical degree.
Yeah, well, I have learned a lot, actually. It was an interesting time, but now I got it all figured out now. And then the problem became just really, when somebody said, why don't you put it on Amazon? And I thought, wow, that's not really, I don't know how to do that. But I tried it, and it did a lot better, obviously, than trying to sell through a single website. And so now everything's really just sort of focused through Amazon.
Interesting. So I guess there are other such things out there. What makes it different from other cum lubes on the market?
I think my approach was different right from the beginning because I wasn't trying to make a lubricant. As I mentioned, really, we were trying to make fake semen, which is a whole different project. And so even once I realized that a sort of a white lubricant would do the trick, more or less, I still had a lot of refinements to do. And I started buying up all the cum lubes that were on the market so I could see if I was just wasting my time competing with big players that were already doing this. And what I discovered was that most of the lubricants that are called cum lubes, they are just standard lubricant with some color added. That's all they do. They take their regular clear strawberry lubricant, or plain, I guess, preferably. They add a bunch of basically cake frosting color or food coloring, and they turn it white, and they call it a day, and they're done. And I got tons of them. And
that doesn't even sound safe.
Well, I'm guessing they use, I know now, I used food coloring to start with, but I know titanium dioxide is probably the way to go. There's a lot of ways that you can color stuff cosmetically that will make it, safe. But still, the problem was all I had in my hands at that point was just a white lubricant, but it didn't really resemble anything at all. So that's when I had to start getting kind of tricky and try to make it different. So for me, the real difference was sort of the right color. Most cum is really not white. We think of it as being white, but as you know, if you've ever tried to paint a house or decorate, there's thousands of shades of white. And so finding the right shade was important so that it just wasn't some kind of emulsion-looking white lubricant. So we found that sort of adding color to it, different amounts of yellow or green would actually bring it to a much more realistic color. And then the next thing was to try to find a way to make it sticky, so that when you touched it, it would sort of hang on your finger a little bit and behave, a little bit more like the real thing. So, and of course, the difficulty there is everyone is different. People would say, well, like, my cum doesn't look like that. Well, I'm like, okay, well, yes, sure. If you watch, spend half an hour on PornTube or whatever, Pornhub, and you'll see that cum comes in all kinds of types, right? Very watery to very thick and creamy. And so what I decided was I'm just going to go for an average or an ideal, I suppose. Since I wanted this to be for the adult industry, I knew it had to be white enough to show up on camera. Otherwise, there's no point. So too much translucency, however realistic, just wasn't going to work because you wouldn't be able to see it. And so I had this sort of idealized notion of what I thought the perfect cum would look like, and just sort of used that as my benchmark, really.
Okay. All right. What are the main ingredients?
So I can't give away the secret sauce, obviously, but yeah, it's basically gum,
so to speak.
Yeah. But it really is just like most lubes. It's sort of gum based. So we have methyl cellulose, and then, obviously it's mostly water, and then just it's figuring out the rest that's hard. If you look at most cum lubes, that's all they are. There's really nothing else in there. So this is turning out to be quite expensive to make in a sense, just because I've added a lot of extra stuff in there to try to get it to behave in a certain way. And it's not perfect, and there are lots of things I would still like to do to make it even better. But there are some obstacles that I just haven't managed to overcome yet. So one of them is, you know how, I don't know if people know this, but when you ejaculate, it's not coming from a single point in your body. There are two tubes that join together. So the sperm comes out of the testes, and that tube is met, I think it's called the vas deferens. That tube supplies the food for the sperm. So a mixture of sort of salty, that's where the salty sweet comes from, because the sperm needs sugar to live on. And so obviously when those two tubes meet with different fluids in them, and then that is ejected from the tip of the penis, that's why cum tends to be not uniform, right? It's a little kind of watery in places and thicker in others. It could be a little swirly. And that's just a result of these two delivery tubes in your body trying to mix together on the way out of the penis. So that's something I would really love to be able to do, because ours is still, it's very good. It's definitely better than anyone else's for sure, but it's still uniform in that sense. And I've tried so many things to try to get that sort of swirly look to it. It's really difficult.
Yeah, but I think the important thing is that it looks good on camera. As long as it looks good on camera, that's all you really need.
Yeah. Well, it's working for now, but I'm always looking to improve, just because I'm get my teeth into something and I just want it. It's hard to compete with the big players. So there's, like wet lubricants that have 20 different SKUs, from strawberry to warming, cooling, tingling, this and that. I mean, I'm just a small guy, right? There's just no way for me to compete with these guys, but except to have a product that is so much better than their cum lube that people are prepared to pay a little bit more for it because it costs more to make, but the difference is there. And if it's what you do, or even if you don't intend to use it for the adult industry, you just like to play with it, maybe have a bit of a cum fetish, I think you appreciate that extra care that went into making it,
There you go. You mentioned that it's expensive to make. What does it cost to buy it?
So right now, because we're selling it in fairly small batches, a 4-ounce bottle on Amazon costs $23. And if you look at, let's say Lube Life, which is one of the big players on Amazon, they're selling that same bottle, actually more. You can get 6 or 8 ounces of Lube Life for maybe $9.95. So it's more than double. But once we get this factory online next month, we're going to be able to slash that cost by at least $10. So it will come from 23 all the way down to 13. And I think at that point, we'll really be able to, leverage and scale and compete with some of the bigger players.
Okay. Well, not that I'm interested, but can you eat it?
That's a surprisingly common question. I always tell people, and I get emails like, can I eat it? Can I put it here? Can I put it there? I'm like, do you want my lawyer's answer? My attorney would be like, no, don't answer that question.
I would give my lawyer's answer if I were you.
That's generally what I do. But the truth is, there's no reason why you couldn't eat it. So one of the things that I learned about methylcellulose and all of those that gum family in general, it's not harmful at all. It's just made from, it literally comes out of a tree. It's a cellulose product, comes from wood, tree pulp. I mean, assuming, of course, that there's no microbial issues, which is, we get back to that chemistry problem, but assuming it's legitimately processed, the worst thing that's going to happen, even if you drank all 8 ounces in the bottle, you'd probably get diarrhea. And because essentially cellulose is a laxative. So you're just going to loosen your bowels, and that's about it. So really no problem to eat it, but I can't really say that, I just don't want to recommend doing that.
No, it's probably one of those don't try this at home things.
But the truth is, there's really no reason why you couldn't.
Yeah. Now, how about inside the body, into a woman's vagina or butt?
Yeah, I think butt's fine, vagina's okay. The one area, again, where because essentially it is a lubricant, so no reason why you couldn't use it that way. It's made the same way. I just prefer to call it synthetic semen, just because, I don't know, it's the one thing that distinguishes me from, as I say, those bigger players. Okay, so here's another weird question I get. I don't know if you've heard of this kind of thing, but I had a couple of people ask me, can they inject it into their urethra and put it into their bladder and then basically pee it out of their bladder like a cum shot? And I'm like, really?
Talk to my attorney.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm sorry, I can't recommend that. I don't care I wouldn't recommend you did that with your own urine. I wouldn't recommend you put your own urine back into your bladder or anything else. Like, what the fuck are you doing? But again, would it hurt you? Probably not. I know people do it. I just think it's dumb to do that kind of thing. But no, there's nothing in there that's going to hurt you, really. That's the least of your worries, I imagine. If you're shoving stuff up your urethra, I think probably you'll be fine. You're going to end up in the ER for other reasons than what's in my product.
Yes, more than likely. That or gerbils up the butt, for sure.
Haven't tried that yet.
No, Richard Gere did. So how has the adult community reacted to the product so far?
It's been interesting, actually. Given that I thought of it as being sort of tailored to the adult industry, given the way that the product started with my friend, it was weird when another friend of mine said, put it on Amazon. And I had thought, why? This is not my target audience. He said, why don't you just do it anyway? And so I did.
Because everything's on Amazon.
Well, and he was right. What I discovered is that most of the people that are buying it are not in the adult industry. They're just sort of mom and pop cum fetishists, I guess. Or they like cum lube. They like white lube. And so I was really surprised. I did a Survey Monkey thing at one point a few years ago to all of my current customers and said, how many of you guys are in the adult industry? And only about 20% of them were. And that's the other reason I put it on Amazon. I thought, oh, well, okay, this is not taking off with the adult industry the way that I thought it would. I was hoping it would be insurance in a bottle for them, that it would, yes, as you said in the intro, that it would provide a way to make a lot more scenes a lot more quickly. And, I do have a couple of major adult players that buy it, but not as many as I thought. But it turns out that's not such a bad thing, because obviously the number of people in the world that are looking to buy lubricant on Amazon is a huge number compared with the number of people in the adult industry that would like to buy it. So if it turns out that the adult industry is not so interested, it's turning out not to be a problem. But if you want to know what I think, I mean, the question really is, why is the adult industry not interested? Or I'm not saying they're not interested, but why is it not like just taken off all over the place? And I think the truth is that the adult industry, you'll know this, but the adult industry is not what people think it is. I think if you ask the average person on the street what percentage of cum shots on porn movies are faked, most people would guess very high. They think the whole thing's fake. And the truth is, it's not. The truth is most of the stuff that you see is real. And I think that is the main reason why the adult industry hasn't been that bothered, because they have pretty good actors that don't have too many bad days. And they're like, why would I need this? They just don't need it at the end of the day. That's my theory.
Maybe they need to be educated, and that always comes with marketing. And it's a matter, I think, of maybe doing a better job of marketing to the adult space, which you've done a little bit of on XBiz, I know.
Very little, though. You're right. Very little, actually. So maybe I just haven't put the word out. I didn't know how to put the word out. I just fell right into Amazon and sort of got stuck there.
You need a good marketing firm like Adult B2B Marketing, which I happen to own, but we'll talk about that. Anyway, what do other adult studios like about it, the ones who are using it?
Well, I don't know what they do with it. I recognize the names in the emails. So I'll get, I can see the shipping addresses in California, and I'm like, oh, that's X studio. So I know, but why they use it and what they do with it, I can only assume is what it's intended for. That some of them have realized that it's really great insurance. I know what it's like to be on set when there's a bad day, and everybody's just sitting around eating pizza because we just can't get to the end. I've seen that happen. And it's very frustrating and time consuming and expensive when you got a whole film crew there. I know most people aren't doing features these days. It's just clips.
They're still doing a shoot, and they have to have a whole crew there.
But it is great insurance. You can fudge it if you really have to. You have an exit strategy with this product, and I think that's probably what they're using it for. And as I say, also, let's do another couple of scenes, and maybe we can get a better angle, or we can get a couple of different endings here. Or we can create a whole new scene. You could do 5 or 6, 7, 8 scenes a day if you want, instead of just one. It's a great moneymaker, I think. But I think you're right. I think I just didn't market it, and I don't think anybody knows about it, despite the fact that it's been out there about 10 years now. I just haven't really. I'm a real estate broker by day, so I just haven't really. This was a side hustle that turned into a real thing. Now, of course, I'm having to readjust my priorities because I'm making a lot more money here now than I am in real estate. So I got to figure out a way to adjust my priorities accordingly.
I think that's great.
Who wants to sell houses when you can sell squirting dildos? You know?
Exactly. So, what are some of the challenges you've had with Amazon?
Oh, Amazon's a pain in the butt. I mean, I don't even know where to start. It's just people that don't sell on Amazon and just buy on Amazon have no idea what it's like to be on the other side of that coin.
I think I've got an idea being a customer, yeah.
And it's great, though, from the customer side, because I'm a huge customer, too. Obviously, everything that it's kind of a circle jerk in a way, because everything we buy in terms of components also comes from Amazon. So they're getting our business to buy a lot of the components, and then we turn around and resell on the same platform. So I'm a buyer and a seller.
That's why Jeff Bezos is so wealthy.
I mean, it's unbelievable what they take from you, right? So Black Friday's coming up. We're doing a big bottling session right now, actually, because we're trying to get extra inventory over to them. And they charge somewhere, I think it's just under, it was about $300 just to take part in the Black Friday sale. Then you have to offer a minimum of $25 off of your standard pricing. Then you've got all the Amazon fees. So basically, out of that $23, I would see less than $10 back. The guys that I mentioned earlier, they're selling for $9.99, are probably only making 50 cents a bottle if they're lucky. But then, they're selling 50,000 units a month. So 50, it's 25 grand a month. It's still good. But Amazon's a pain in the butt. And the back end is just awful to try to work with. I mean, people think that Amazon is just like a glorified eBay. It's nothing like eBay. It's a full retail experience. And if you don't know what you're doing, Amazon's going to eat your lunch.
Mm-hmm. I believe that. Like I said, Bezos isn't so huge for giving away money. He makes money and nobody else does. And that's how corporations do things these days. They make it all, and the customer and the distributors suffer.
It's a nightmare. I have a friend, I'll just tell a quick story. I have a friend who tried it. He bought 600 frying pans from China, and I think 595 of them are still in his garage. He just couldn't, it's just not as easy as you think.
Learn about drop shipping, dude. Learn about drop shipping. My God.
It is not fun. If somebody asked me, should I do it? I'd be like, oh, hell no. Not unless you know what you're doing. You're going to cry all the way, home. It's not a fun experience.
No, I can only imagine. Again, my opinion of corporate America and big companies like Amazon isn't very high. Even though I buy a lot from them, they're actually getting really good on international shipping now and getting things here quickly to Thailand. So yeah, no, they've come a long way.
So you have Amazon in Thailand too? You can just get stuff over there?
Nope, it's US Amazon, but I can get it here.
Good Lord. How does that work?
Yeah, you put your address. A lot of products through their marketplace aren't available. I think a lot of sellers don't allow it, but then a lot are, especially their stuff. So yeah, it actually works out pretty good. We just got a couple of air purifiers, and it was fantastic. Free shipping over a certain amount. I think over $39, it's free shipping. So yeah, don't even have to pay international shipping anymore. And they're
planning to take over the world, obviously, and I think they'll succeed.
I think they already have, actually. You just didn't notice. By the way, I got to give this standard disclaimer. We're recording this November 20th, and it will run in April. So, can you explain the FDA's work in the field of personal lubricants and how it's impacted your company?
Well, it gets complicated because the FDA, of course, anytime you get the FDA involved in anything, it's about as much fun as working with Amazon. So there's nothing fun about this in some respects. But the FDA, I don't know if people know this, but personal lubricants are classified as a medical device, just like a condom is a medical device. Everything is just called a device, even though it's a liquid, right? So if you're selling personal lubricant, the FDA require what they call 510K clearance on that device for you to be able to market it as a personal lubricant and use those words, personal lubricant. And it costs about $100,000 to get something through that clearance process, and a lot of time. It's a real pain in the butt. So some of the big companies like Wet that have their own factory and have been in this business for years have done that with several of their products. So they're sort of in the clear. Even though they have other products that they bring online that aren't necessarily cleared, they get away with it. But for a lot of the products, they're not cleared. Now, I don't think that's necessarily a problem because clearance just means that you've sort of jumped through all their hoops.
Yeah, you've gotten their stamp of approval, but it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And it doesn't mean that just because you're not cleared that you have a bad product either. I mean, provided the factory that you're working with does all of the same, biotesting for microbials and what have you, your product's going to be the same, but you're not supposed to call it a personal lubricant and you're not supposed to say where you can put it, right? So you can't say, put some on the tip of your penis before intercourse. You can't mention condoms, condom safe, toy safe, latex safe. You can't make any claims of that nature. And if you do, then you may just run afoul of the FDA and they'll come after you. So you have to be a little careful.
Trump might come to your door.
Well, I wish he would. I'd have a thing to say. I had enough of his tariffs for one thing.
Oh boy. Tell me about it. Yeah. Now he's doing everybody a favor by offering to cut tariffs. Well, we shouldn't have had tariffs in the first place. That's a tax on Americans. Yeah. And his idiot supporters don't realize that. They believe everything comes out of his mouth. China pays the tariffs. Yeah, fuck you. Americans pay the tariffs.
Yeah, no, they don't. And I'm telling people this all the time. I mean, I literally had a guy show up.
Well, you're in Florida. I can only imagine.
Yes, I don't know why people don't get it at this point because it's pretty obvious how tariffs work. It's not rocket science. But when I get a shipment of my last shipment of dildos that came from China, I get the DHL guy or the UPS guy shows up at the door with the trolley, the dolly, and I go to grab them and he's like, not so fast. Where's the check? I'm like, what check? He's like, you need to write me a check for $250. I'm like, who do I make it payable to? And he's like, U.S. Treasury Department. I'm like, yeah, of course. I'm paying the tariffs. And then I get to choose whether or not I want to pass that on to the consumer. But people just don't understand.
If you don't, it comes out of your pocket.
Right. But if you do, you could lose customers. But either way, somebody in America is paying for it.
Somebody's getting screwed.
The consumer or the developer. But certainly not China. They could care less. I asked them, I'm like, hey, how are these tariffs affecting you? And they're like, we don't give a shit. I mean, the truth is, look, when China is making a product, let's say people don't realize just how cheap stuff is in China. Trump would need to put tariffs on a 500% or 1,000% before it made sense to me to buy it from the US. Because it's so cheap, even with a 60%, 70% tariff, I'm still buying from China. It's still cheaper.
And that kind of tells you the situation American manufacturing's in. When the politicians talk about helping American manufacturing, the tariffs aren't doing it. That's supposedly the reason. But when it comes right down to it, they can't touch the Chinese prices. It's really kind of ridiculous.
And not to mention, frankly, I mean, look, there's two other points to make here. One is, even if we wanted to do it, and let's say we were sufficiently motivated by these tariffs to do that, well, you can't just build a factory overnight and start complying with Trump's demands in that sense. It's going to take 2 years to build a factory or find a factory, set it up, get all your equipment in there. You're not going to be pumping out any goods or services for at least 2 years, by which time, he'll be dead or, who knows. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. But the bigger point is we got rid of manufacturing for a reason. We offshored all of this development to China because we want to be in tech or crypto or whatever. America doesn't want manufacturing. That's why we got rid of it. So are we really going to bring it back? I don't think so.
No, not going to happen. What plans do you have for other flavors of your product?
I think we're going to do a strawberry next. And just try to kind of increase the amount of SKUs that we can do on Amazon. So this product that we're talking about now is called Shoot It. It was originally called Calm, K-U-M, but I thought that was a little crass.
Oh, come on. It's an adult product. You have a license to be crass. Come on.
Well, and while I was selling it on our own website, it was fine. But of course, once we got involved with Amazon, and you have to do pay-per-click with them, the same you would on Google. So get this is another problem with Amazon. You might think that because I'm on Amazon, I get to just appear along with all the other search results. No, you have to pay on Amazon for placement. So you're competing with other Amazon sellers. And of course, Amazon gets the money either way. They never win. It's like gambling in Nevada. The house always wins. And Amazon gets all your money, whichever way you move. So we changed it to Shoot It, which I thought was kind of fun because, the idea with the adult industry was, the wordplay on shoot. And so my idea was, we'll do the strawberry, we'll call it Fruit It. Then we'll have maybe a hybrid, we'll call it Lube It. Then we'll have Stroke It, Fake It, Rinse It, Soothe It, Mop It, Thrust It, fried it, crave it, fresh it. I don't know. There's no end of things that I think we could do to develop a nice product line around this idea.
Sounds like fun.
But for flavors, yeah, not so much on flavors, but certainly other products. I think that we can have a toy cleaner next to go with the dildo.
Yeah, tell me more about other products you're considering, or that you're selling for that matter.
2 products that we don't sell on Amazon yet, which are the firing mechanisms, just because they take a long time to make, and I just haven't got around to sort of being able to do that in the kind of quantities that Amazon would require. But we sell those through the website. So that's the one I mentioned, where you pass the tube between your legs and you sort of fire it. That's great for cam operators and people that are just sort of doing their own thing. And then we created basically a more powerful version of that with a 50-inch line that could be operated by a third party. So if you were actually going to use it for a film shoot, the actor could sort of hold the tube and run it through their legs just like the other one, but with a huge long tube on it and a more powerful trigger. So somebody could be on the other side of the room, out of the shot, and they could fire it when, according to need.
You don't want them in the shot.
Yes, and it lets them, but I mean, it also gives control to the production crew at that point. Instead of the actor having to sort of focus on trying to chew gum and walk at the same time, he can do what he's doing, and somebody else can focus on trying to fire this thing as needed. So we have those 2. And then we created a squirting dildo. And this one really is fun because, again, I wanted it to be different. And if you look up all the squirting dildos that are currently available on Amazon or anywhere else, you'll see there are only 2 mechanisms to fire that liquid. And one is a sort of a ear syringe like you'd have for your kids, where you have to basically detach the bulb, suck up the liquid into the bulb, reattach it to the line, and then sort of try to squeeze the bulb. And the problem with that is, well, obviously it's kind of messy, but also you can't really control much with the bulb. The other mechanism, which is just a straightforward syringe, a medical syringe. So again, you'd have to detach the syringe, suck it up through the syringe, reattach it, and then try to squirt the syringe. But the problem is that you can't get sort of power or distance that way. And generally speaking, it's a one-shot deal. You kind of shoot the syringe, it all comes out, and you're done. And the same with the bulb, right? You squeeze the bulb, it all flies out in one go, and it's game over. So what we did was because I was so used to working with triggers, I created a trigger mechanism and a sort of plug-and-play bottle so that we basically got these dildos from China and redesigned them. We sort of take them apart, put them back together again, retrofit them with our design, with the trigger, medical line, and then you can really fire that trigger straight from the bottle. And the bottle, which is a 4-ounce bottle, so you can fire that thing for maybe 20, 30 shots, and you can go short, long, short, long. You can get real power and control over your shots. It's really fun to play with. It's just goofy and childish, and you can squirt it at your friends in the face and get bitch slapped for your trouble. And it's a lot of fun. So that's the one that I was trying to patent. I've got a patent pending on that one because no one else is using.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, I don't know if it's going anywhere because I don't know if you've ever tried to patent anything, but I've been doing this for 4 years already, and it seems to be going nowhere with the patent office that have backed up for 3 years.
Oh, that's the problem is the backlog?
It's partly backlog and partly the red tape and the BS that you have to go through, and it's almost impossible. They object. Whatever you do, they just say no and they object, and then you have to pay your attorneys to go back and re-argue the case for a couple more years, and then eventually you get there or you don't. But yeah, it's a huge pain in the butt. I wish I'd never bothered, but I wanted to try to protect this because it really is, it's so effective, and no one else is doing it. So I thought maybe we could patent it, but we'll see.
Do you think there's bias against the adult industry in the patent process?
That's a good question. I actually asked my attorney about that, and he said there used to be, and there's actually a paper published on it, I found, on exactly what you said. I think it was written in the 70s, though. So I think certainly back in the day, there was huge bias against basically giving any kind of credibility to any kind of sex toy. And that would include the credibility offered by patent. So no, you couldn't. But these days you can. I really don't think. I mean, maybe if your patent officer just happens to be a born-again evangelical Christian who just doesn't want to play ball with you, you'd be unlucky. But sure, I think it could still happen.
Interesting. From being in the whole novelty game, what's your take on that industry right now, coming from the outside?
In what sense?
Well, I mean, in terms of sex toys and the like. What is your feeling about the overall industry and novelties?
I mean, it's not really my area of expertise, but if I look on Amazon and you just sort of look around, of course, there's no reduction in appetite for any of this stuff. And the sex industry is always going to be there. And, as we all know, it's going to be getting bigger, not smaller, with the advent of Japanese robots and AI. I mean, it's just a matter of time because before we all just get divorced and fuck our favorite robots, right? I don't see this ending any other way, frankly.
The end of humanity as we know it.
Oh, I think we're screwed. I think we're totally screwed, but we'll die happy at least,
That's funny. Yeah, that's another question that comes up with sex robots coming. And obviously there will be male sex robots too. Will you be in that game, at least in terms of providing your, as you like to say, secret sauce to those robots?
Well, that would be, that's an interesting idea. I haven't thought that far ahead yet, but I don't know that they could build them with little back doors, pardon the pun, where you could insert a little packet of something. Yeah, I don't know how that will pan out, but it's super interesting. And just looking at the way things are going, I mean, every so often I'll sign on to YouTube and I'll see the latest. I don't know do you know Boston? I think they're called Boston Dynamics, so the folk that make the robots. Yeah, I mean, I've been following those guys for about 10 years, and I remember when they couldn't get a robot to stand up without falling over.
Oh, now they have dog robots.
Yeah, and now they're jumping hurdles. They're doing MMA. I mean, they don't fall over anymore. And I mean, really, by the time you put you get a good face on them and a good body, and I think we're just not far away, a hop, skip, and a jump now from having something that's completely usable. I would never have bothered with any of this stuff. I was the same with the what's the headset called? Oculus.
Oh, you're talking about VR?
Yeah, all the VR stuff. I always said, don't waste my time with it until it's perfect. When it's going to blow my mind, I'll be on board. But until then, I got better things to do. But I really think we're close to the point now where, I mean, I've seen some incredible VR stuff lately, and the robots for sure are just around the corner. There's just no denying it. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and with AI, I think it's all going to kind of pull together.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Indeed, it's a great time to be alive. Max, I'd like to thank you for being with us today on Adult Side Broker Talk, and I hope we'll get a chance to do this again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine.
My broker tip today is part 1 of what to do to make your site more valuable for when you decide to sell it later. First, make sure you're converting as much of your traffic as possible. Traffic's expensive, whether it's search engine traffic, review site traffic, or affiliate traffic. You paid a lot for it. So make sure that when someone lands on your site, you give them every opportunity possible to either spend money or do whatever it is you want your visitors to do. In the case of a pay site, make sure your billing options allow as many people as possible to buy. Have multiple ways to pay. In North America, most everyone has a credit card, but in other parts of the world, credit cards aren't used nearly as much. In Europe, for instance, credit card usage is low, so look for billing options that will match the areas where your traffic comes from. In Europe, ACH and debit cards are used a lot. In Africa and other developing nations, many people pay by mobile. Do your homework and find out how people pay in the regions you get most of your traffic. It will make you more money. The worst thing you can do is get a visitor, have them want to buy, but since you don't have their preferred way to pay, they can't. If you're looking for suggestions, feel free to get in touch with me via my website. Along with this is to improve your user experience. Make your site attractive and easy to navigate. People have more options than ever these days. I can't tell you how many sites I go to, even some that are owned by large companies, where the navigation isn't obvious to the user. You poke around for what seems like forever to do something that should be relatively easy. Keep it simple. Before you launch any changes to your site, ask your friends to go to the site and check it out. Unfortunately, designers and tech geeks don't think like us. You need real people to look at your site for you. The same kind of people who will be visiting your site. We'll talk about this subject more next week. And next week, we'll be speaking with performer Nai Nai Lu. And that's it for this week's Adult Side Broker Talk. I'd once again like to thank my guest, Max Huhn of Money Shot Magic. Talk to you again next week on Adult Side Broker Talk. I'm Bruce Friedman.